said Ilia too. Like, bro, do you think anybody has an answer for that guy?
I say time will tell. One thing that I know from experience, just being in the sport for so long, that it's difficult to win the belt. It's more difficult to live the lifestyle of a UFC champion and continue being a UFC champion.
Dude, is Ilia Topuria getting the red corner? I mean, my goodness. Can we put some respect on the name Charles Oliveira? No, it's a fascinating fight. Yes, Justin Gaethje, who's the hardest man he's ever been hit by in all of his fights, and it's Charles Oliveira. And I'm just excited to see what Charles can do, because the betting line suggests that he's up against it. A lot of Charles's contemporaries are suggestive that this is a custom-made matchup for Ilia Topuria. He's taken on the most decorated finisher in UFC history and the man who reigns supreme atop this weight class. So fascinated to see it. And I think my biggest takeaway with Topuria is just the way guys like Kenny Florian talk about him in such superlative terms. And, we'll see if he can live up to the hype. I'm excited to see him in a division, not cut too much weight. And, great way to sort of usher him in, headlining International Fight Week for the soon-to-be vacant UFC lightweight title.
Just a few days left in a fight that will define the future of two divisions. Either Ilia will take the belt and fight Islam Makhachev at welterweight, or Charles will take over the entire lightweight division.
I'm a super big fan of Charles, but Ilia has kind of he's just looks unbeatable at the moment.
Charles Oliveira has become the only UFC fighter who will have the opportunity for a third title fight. His previous vacant UFC lightweight title against Michael Chandler, defending the title against Dustin Poirier, and losing the title to Islam Makhachev. Now, he will also be fighting for a vacant title against Ilia Topuria at UFC 317.
Does that change anything at all when you're not trying to go into a title fight taking the belt off a current champion?
No, it doesn't change anything. It's a title fight in the end. It doesn't matter if there's a champion or there isn't one. It's a title fight. You got to go in there and win.
Adding on some final predictions, UFC heavyweight champion Jon Jones recently shared his thoughts on Ilia Topuria, and while he knows the hype, his message was grounded in experience and hard-earned wisdom.
You said Ilia too. Like, bro, do you think anybody has an answer for that guy?
I say time will tell. One thing that I know from experience, just being in the sport for so long, that it's difficult to win the belt. It's more difficult to live the lifestyle of a UFC champion and continue being a UFC champion. The fame and the press and the money and the girls and the alcohol and all of it, it doubles down on you.
Jones started by making it clear, Ilia is ferocious. He respects Topuria's skills, his rise, and his current momentum. But then came a reality check from someone who's lived the life at the top of the UFC. According to John, winning the belt is only half the battle. The real challenge is staying champion, as the anticipation is growing and fight is just a few days to go.
And very few people can handle it. So yeah. I actually do wish Elias all the support in the world. I know he has a great family, a great management team, and a great fight team, and great friends.
He's a savage, bro.
I think he's
Islam's savage, bro.
I think he's gonna do the right things. But we'll see. We'll see. It's always going to be a matter of time when it comes to people that have become champion. It's a very hard thing.
UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley, who recently fought with Merab, is eagerly waiting to see Ilia Topuria defeat Charles Oliveira, and hopes that after that, Topuria will go on to face Islam Makhachev.
Who do you have in Topuria versus Oliveira?
I wanted to see Topuria versus Islam.
I know. We all did.
Those are the two #1 pound-for-pound guys in the world. In my opinion, that was the fight to make, but they both wanted to move up. Heart says Charles, my brain says Ilia.
For Sean, the idea of Ilia versus Islam is a dream matchup between two dominant forces with completely different styles. And if Topuria can get past a legend like Oliveira, O'Malley believes it will set the stage for one of the most exciting lightweight showdowns in recent UFC history. Meanwhile, UFC commentator John Anik gave his take on the highly anticipated clash between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria, and his words carried both respect and suspense. Anik didn't come in with a prediction, but his tone made one thing very clear. This fight is massive. He started out by asking the question on every fan's mind. Can Topuria do it again? Can he knock out another legend? After obliterating Alexander Volkanovski for the featherweight title, Topuria is now stepping into hostile territory, headlining the International Fight Week for the soon-to-be vacant UFC lightweight title.
Can Topuria do it again and knock out another legend?
Dude, is Ilia Topuria getting the red corner? I mean, my goodness. Can we put some respect on the name Charles Oliveira? No, it's a fascinating fight. Yes, Justin Gaethje, who's the hardest man he's ever been hit by in all of his fights, and it's Charles Oliveira. And I'm just excited to see what Charles can do, because the betting line suggests that he's up against it. A lot of Charles's contemporaries are suggestive that this is a custom-made matchup for Ilia Topuria.
But John Anik wasn't oblivious to who Charles Oliveira is, and with a touch of exasperation in his voice, questioned, can we put some respect on Charles Oliveira's name? Because odds be damned, there is no more ordinary fighter in this fight. This is the most decorated finisher in UFC history, the former king of the lightweight division, and the man Justin Gaethje himself said hit harder than anyone he has ever faced.
He's taken on the most decorated finisher in UFC history and the man who reigns supreme atop this weight class. So fascinated to see it. And I think my biggest takeaway with Topuria is just the way guys like Kenny Florian talk about him in such superlative terms. And, we'll see if he can live up to the hype. I'm excited to see him in a division, not cut too much weight. And great way to sort of usher him in, headlining International Fight Week for the soon-to-be vacant UFC lightweight title. I can't wait.
This time, Charles Oliveira's title fight will be even more interesting, as he's facing Ilia Topuria, who is moving up from featherweight after taking the title there. Topuria is undefeated and has put on some of the most dominant displays at 145 pounds, making him one of the scariest newcomers on the UFC landscape. Topuria abruptly stepping up to lightweight and challenging a former champion like Oliveira will ensure that this fight is filled with excitement and potential for absolute chaos.
For sure, especially the hype that he's coming, and he's undefeated. It's something that makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, and I found the first time, I think, like on record, you were asked about Ilia. I think it was at the media day before your fight with Michael Chandler, and you were very respectful. You said, Ilia is someone who talks the talk, walks the walk, and he would have a lot of challenges at lightweight, and he would be a tough fight. All respect there. Do you feel like he's given you that same respect in the lead up to this fight?
No, definitely not. Didn't treat with the same respect.
Why do you think that is? Because you're obviously one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. We know all the records and the history you've made. Do you think this is just how he acts towards all the opponents, or do you think there's something about you that has led to that lack of respect?
Man, I don't know. He's been saying a lot, but the fact of the matter is we're going to find out on June 28th. Everyone knows who the real champion is.
Charles Oliveira somehow has an advantage over Ilia, as he already fought at this level thrice and belongs to the same division, but still, according to Charles Oliveira, he sees some danger in a difficult fight for him. He knows every fighter has different risks, so it's not going to be an easy fight for him, for sure.
It's difficult, everyone's different. I obviously took a little bit of time to adapt to lightweight when I came up from featherweight, but we're going to have to see. He doesn't have the experience yet fighting at this high level, so we're going to have to see. It is what it is. We're going to look each other in the eyes, and we're going to see who the real one is.
Ilia Topuria isn't just another contender. He's coming from a different weight class, and his style is unlike anything Charles Oliveira has dealt with before. Oliveira knows it too. He said it himself. Ilia is a different level of fighter. This fight is more than just a title fight. This is an event with a clash of styles, generations, narratives, momentum. Charles cannot go in with the same blueprint. This is uncharted territory, and that's exactly why fans can't take their eyes off this one. This is going to be a war.
Do you think winning the title this time, Charles, is going to mean more to you than the first time against Michael Chandler? Or what do you think are going to be the differences in the emotion getting that belt back this time?
For sure. The one with Michael Chandler is in the past now, so this is a new phase, a different moment. Yeah, everything's new.
If something goes wrong with Ilia, Arman Tsarukyan is already signed on to be the backup fighter. Yup, another beast, another killer ready to step in at a moment's notice. But Charles? No big deal. He already said he is ready for whoever. Either it's Topuria or Tsarukyan. Oliveira is coming to make a statement. Charles is stepping with full preparation.
That's really up to the UFC, whatever they feel like is the right thing to do. But, honestly, I'm not out looking for problems, for things to make him pick on, so I'm just looking to go in there and win.
Totally fair. Charles, I'm curious, they announced that, or it's come out that Arman Tsarukyan will be the backup fighter for this title fight. If something crazy happened, would you be okay fighting him in a rematch on short notice?
I don't know if he is the backup, but if that's what the UFC decides, then that's what we're going to do. He's also great guy and a great opponent, so we'll see.
Oliveira is walking into this battle with one mission: to cement his name in UFC history. This isn't just a title fight, this is legacy versus destiny, and Charles Oliveira is ready to go through fire to claim what's his.
It's huge for me. You know, I always talk about the legacy I'm leaving behind, so to have a movie that people can go and watch and see that is going to be huge. And I just want to win. You know, that it's meant to be. It's already written.
Coming back to the predictions, UFC welterweight fighter Michael Chiesa recently weighed in on the highly anticipated clash between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria. And while he's a longtime fan of Oliveira, Chiesa made some sharp observations that might surprise you. He broke down key technical details, especially how Topuria's body attacks and underrated grappling could play a crucial role. Let's just say Chiesa isn't picking with his heart this time.
Man, it's really hard to pick against Ilia Topuria. I'm a big Charles Oliveira fan, especially like I love, you know, I'm always rooting for the guys from like the old guard. But if I'm going to get into the X's and O's, the way Topuria is able to touch the body is something that I think it's going to play a big role in this fight. Charles likes to stand very tall. He kind of leaves that body open a little bit. We've seen him go down from body shots in the past. And people forget, or actually people don't forget, people just might not know this, that Ilia Topuria's base, in the way he came up on the regional scene, you would not think that he's this devastating puncher. He really shined as a grappler, really shined with his wrestling. And while Charles Oliveira is the all-time submission lead, the greatest ground specialist we've ever seen in the UFC, I think that it's going to be very hard for Charles to submit Ilia Topuria, so I think Ilia gets the job done.
Another UFC prospect, Billy Goff, recently shared his thoughts on the high-stakes matchup, and he didn't sugarcoat a thing. When it comes to analyzing this clash, he made it clear where his prediction lies. According to Goff, this fight could be dangerous for Charles, not because he lacks skill, but because of his fighting tendencies. Oliveira has always been known for his aggressive forward pressure style. He likes to stand and trade, which has made him a fan favorite, but it also leaves him vulnerable. Goff pointed out that Charles often gets clipped in these exchanges, and against someone like Topuria, that could be a costly mistake.
I think Topuria is going to knock him out because because Oliveira is going to stand with him. Oliveira always stands with people, and Oliveira always gets clipped. And Topuria is an extremely smart fighter, always stays protected. And I think he is going to take advantage of the fact that Oliveira always gets hit, and he's going to rock him and then put him out.
Adding on anticipation to the biggest UFC fight, Gabe Green, a UFC welterweight, recently shared his analysis of the highly anticipated lightweight matchup between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria, and although he made it clear that he respects both warriors, he is leaning toward the younger, more hungry contender.
I'm gonna lean towards Ilia. I think he's got what it takes to beat Charles. Charles is no one to be slept on. I like both of them so much, but I'm gonna go Ilia, man. Even though he's a little bit smaller, Charles is a big 55er. You know, he's so lengthy and stuff. But I think Ilia's grappling is gonna be enough to kind of stop that, and so it's gonna really depend on if he can beat Charles's range on the striking.
Gabe had no problem admitting the threat Charles Oliveira presents in the cage. Charles is nobody to sleep on, he said, acknowledging the former champ's slick jiu-jitsu, non-stop pressure, and dangerous striking. He stereotyped Charles as a big, lengthy lightweight who can well use his range and frame to keep opponents off him. This is precisely where Ilia begins to become a threat.
And I think he's like just about it enough to just kind of, you know, I mean, he's such a hard puncher and he'll use it to get inside. So I think he's just going to kind of throw those bombs, get inside. So he's at the range that he feels comfortable in. And then, you know, almost kind of like what I had to do at like 170 to get inside like Rowe and stuff. You know, he's just going to bite down, go in, swing in, get on the inside, and then he's going to have some success there. And then if Charles decides to grapple, because that's all you can really do being the longer fighter when someone's in that close, I think Ilia's gonna have what it takes to kind of get out of or win those grappling exchanges. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Ilia.
Modestas Bukauskas, the light heavyweight Lithuanian Brit, is keeping an eye on the colossal lightweight fight, and while he sees it like an exciting competitive fight, he ultimately gave the edge to the new featherweight champ. Bukauskas praised Charles Oliveira for his extreme jiu-jitsu and sharp striking, giving top marks to the former champion's finishing ability and experience. He admitted the fight will be tough, and he respects Oliveira's skills, but in his opinion, Topuria has what it takes to pull it off. From pressure to positioning to power, Bukauskas chooses his fighter.
I've got to say, Ilia Topuria. Just because, although Oliveira's like jiu-jitsu is very good and he's got very crisp striking himself, I don't know, Ilia Topuria, he's like a little pocket rocket, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? When it comes in close and land those big shots, obviously he's you know, a bit of a size difference in terms of height and stuff like this, but he's also got great jiu-jitsu as well and good wrestling. So yeah, in my opinion, I think Topuria would take that.
Plenty of predictions have been going round, including that of former interim lightweight champion Dustin "The Diamond" Poirier. Speaking with the media, Poirier cited Oliveira's vulnerability in fights as reason enough to pick Topuria for the win. Poirier said, "I think Ilia, man. I think he's gonna be way undersized against Charles. I think I just don't see. Unless Charles can sub him, maybe if he hurts him, but it's gonna be tough, I think. Because Charles gets hit a lot, you know, and Ilia puts people away. Dude, Bronx has been notoriously hittable, especially in title fights. He has suffered 3 knockdowns in his 4 UFC title fights and was almost TKO'd by Michael Chandler in the 5th round of their contest at UFC 309, although Chandler did commit a dozen fouls. Topuria has the chance to become a 2-division champion when he takes on Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title in the main event of UFC 317 on June 28th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Given his recent octagon outings, many have backed the 28-year-old to prevail over Oliveira, including Poirier. On the other hand, Topuria is on a 5-fight knockdown streak and would otherwise be on a 6-fight finishing streak if not for his decision victory against Josh Emmett in 2023. Meanwhile, former UFC fighter Demetrius Johnson shared his opinions on a potential Ilia Topuria versus. Charles Oliveira fought and said it's a big fight on the weekend, a huge fight with or without a title. He's right, there's not a reason to wait for an interim or undisputed title to make this fight exciting. It's big just on names alone.
If Ilia Topuria fights Charles Oliveira on a pay-per-view, that's a big deal.
Oh, it's gonna be bigger.
They don't need to wait for an interim belt. They don't need to wait for an undisputed. So yeah, I don't know how he's gonna do it lightweight though. Maybe you can speak on that. He's a smaller guy coming up.
It's a smaller coming up. It'll be interesting because he is bigger. From when I heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast, like 191, I think he was walking around. It's massive. So for him to cut to 145 seems almost like, how did he do that? But now that he's going up to 155, I always like when athletes go up.
Johnson also made an interesting comment about Topuria moving up to 155. Johnson stated he's interested in how Topuria will do at lightweight, given he will have to come from 145 and might have a size disadvantage, which led to something surprising. Johnson recalled Topuria saying he walks around at 191 pounds, which is really big for someone cutting to 145. The stage is set for a showdown between 2 elite warriors. Charles Oliveira, the most dangerous finisher in UFC history, is returning not just to fight for the lightweight title, but to reclaim his legacy. Facing him is Ilia Topuria, who is undefeated, relentless, and looking to take out another legend. This fight is more than a fight between 2 fighters. It is a battle of styles, generations, and mindsets. Will Charles rise again and reclaim his title, or will Topuria announce his arrival as the new king of the division? Can Topuria's power and pressure break through Charles's experience and submission game? Can Ilia handle the storm that is Charles Oliveira at 155? Let us know your predictions in the comments. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more fight analysis, predictions, and UFC hype.